All right, so we're live. Here I am at the Rnc Convention in Cleveland, and I have my friend here, Eugene Craig, who is the third vice chair of the Maryland Republican Party, correct?
Absolutely.
And he's a liberty-minded Republican here, so thank you for doing this interview.
Anything for the great Julie Borowski.
So, what are your thoughts on the Rnc Convention so far?
It's my first convention. It's been a spectacle of sorts. It's had its high moments, it's had its low moments, it's had its very low moments. But it's not over yet. So, I'm really interested to see what happens tonight and tomorrow night. And Thursday night, we culminate this thing.
So what are the very low moments?
I think some of the speeches last night did not help the RNC brand. I think, Sheriff David Clark, who isn't even a Republican, coming to this convention and just hijacking it and turning it into a huge, anti-Black Lives Matter, equating being anti-police brutality with being anti-police. It's absolutely horrible. I think, that tone is not what our country needs right now. If we're going to be a party that unites folks, we're going to be a party that, that wants to uplift the entire America, then we need to be that party. And our rhetoric that comes from the stage, that comes from our candidates, that comes from our surrogates, should reflect that.
Sure. So outside I saw some Black Lives Matter protesters. How can we reach these people, the Republican Party?
Well, I think, the issue around police brutality is a small government issue. Typically what happens is, Democrats, they begun, big local government. Republicans hate big federal government. I think if the Republican Party can come to understand that criminal justice reform, police brutality issues are big government issues, literally when you have people dying, it's a big government issue. I think that's something that we could win on. That's something that we could drive home. And we have folk that are driving home, folk like Justin Amash, folk like Rand Paul. James Lankford out of Oklahoma, Rob Corbin out here in Ohio, that are driving it home. And I think if our party, got the messaging right and got the activity right on this, we can win these things.
I agree. I think there's actually a lot of common ground between the Black Lives Matters and Republicans, but I feel like we're just kind of talking over each other. It's like Black Lives Matter, no, all lives matter, but like we all agree,
I would say, we do all agree, and quite frankly, you can't say all lives matter and then turn around and say Black Lives Matter is racist. If all lives matter, that includes Black Lives Matter.
Yeah.
One of my big comebacks are a lot of folk that they bring out, okay, white people are getting beat up by the cops more. No, why the hell aren't you out there protesting it? If that's the case, then it shouldn't be a matter of it's a being black and white thing. It should be okay. All lives matter. Then all lives need to be out there, stepping up to this issue. Police brutality is not being anti-police brutality is not being anti-police, and I think that was on display over the last 2 weeks. A lot of the Black Lives Matter leaders were the first to go out there and denounce the violence against police. I mean, when the officers' lives were lost in Dallas, also were lost in Baton Rouge, we all heard for it. Those of us that that fight to end issue of police brutality and fight for criminal justice reform, we all shared the sympathy and the empathy of what happened. It wasn't a black and white thing. Now, I do think it would be a big step forward if the Blue Lives Matter crowd could provide some level of empathy when you have black men that are killed in the hand of police, wrong for death. I think that would be a huge step forward. But I think the narrative that is given within the Republican Party and the narrative that's given within that Fox News and conservative ecosphere, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous, and it divides our country.
Is there anything that Black Lives Matter could do better?
Yeah, I think it part of the issue of Black Lives Matters, I like to liken it to the Tea Party. If you look back at the Tea Party in 2010, it wasn't a central body or organization. You had a couple orgs that stepped up and tried to provide some kind of structure, but there wasn't any real structure. So anything that happened, the entire movement got blamed. Some guy shows up with a 20-foot Confederate flag. Now all Tea Partiers are racist. And so you're gonna have wild, uncouth folk in every movement. But I do think that Black Lives Matter could do a better job at managing and tempering folk that get involved with them and control their brand and message, similarly to any other movement.
Yeah, I agree.
I think that will go a long way.
you see it among libertarians. Like, there's definitely some nut job libertarians, the conspiracy, tinfoil.
Everything's a conspiracy.
Yeah, the guy at the Libertarian National Convention getting naked on stage, all of a sudden, that's the like representative
Quickest
of
way not to be
libertarianism.
taken seriously.
Yeah. So, how long have you been part of the liberty movement?
About 5 years now. About five years now.
So, how can the liberty movement do better with Republicans? Like,
well, I will say this: one, you got to be involved. You got to get involved. You absolutely have to be involved. It comes down to if you have a seat at the table. You don't give up that seat until you use the power to come with that seat at the table. And I think libertarians, we have a seat at the table. Quite frankly, I would love to see that LP come into the GOP.
Okay.
I think you want to have effective change. You need a vehicle to affect that change, and secondly, you got to be able to drive it. And I think GOP is a way forward. But the liberty movement, libertarians, we have to make sure we have our seat at the table and use that seat.
What would you say to libertarians who say, well, we already have the Libertarian Party, why do we have to go to the GOP? Let's make our own party.
The Libertarian Party's been around 40 years and hasn't posted a single major win.
Well?
And I'll take it a step further.
Yeah.
The Libertarian Party's been around 40 years and still hasn't been able to control its own brand messaging. I'm not saying that Democrats or Republicans are great. We have our flaws by all means.
Yes.
But, if you want to be effective, if you want to actually affect change, if you want to see a freer country, you need to have a mechanism, and you need to have a mechanism to get it done. And quite frankly, the LP is not an effective mechanism to get it done.
All right. So, do you guys have any questions for Eugene? I can see your questions right now. You see, Eugene, I see on this.
Yeah.
You guys have any questions? What's happening What's happening here? Anything like that? Oh gosh.
Oh man.
Some people are being not nice right now.
Oh man.
That's just YouTube though.
It happens.
Anything? Yeah, some people are really nasty on YouTube. Well, I think that's it. Eugene, where can people find you online?
Eugene Craig Facebook, _ Eugene Craig Twitter. That's about it.
Hold on, someone said, would Jeb Bush have been less bullied if Trump didn't run?
Yeah, I think so. I think Jeb may actually been nominated if Trump didn't run.
So we haven't talked about Donald Trump.
We haven't.
That's unusual. So what are your thoughts on Donald Trump?
I think he has an opportunity here at this convention to actually pivot to a general election strategy, a general election message. I think he has two options here. He can fall back on a lot of things that were said last night that actually painted the party in an absolutely horrible light. He can fall back on his typical rhetoric, or he could, take a step forward and actually, pivot to a general election new message of actually uniting folk. And if he does that, I think he has a great shot at winning. If he sticks to what he's been doing, I think we have an issue on our hands.
So somebody asked, what YouTube channels do you watch?
I watch the Julie Borowski channel.
Good job. And somebody asked, do you think Trump can win?
I do think Trump can win, but I think it's going to be completely dependent upon if Donald Trump can actually pivot his message and actually, if he surrounds himself around people that actually be willing to tell him the truth and just instead of just yes man, that'll be actually give him the hard, the hard realities of what minorities think of the Republican Party. It'd be great if you had 2 million Eugene Craigs voting, but that's not the reality of it.
Yeah.
It's not the reality of it. But I do think he has a shot. But I think it's totally dependent upon what he's going to do.
Somebody asked what you thought about Trump's wife's speech last night.
Imitation is the best form of flattery.
Oh, all right. And there was another question which you kind of already addressed, but do you think Black Lives Matter is a peaceful movement?
Absolutely, it's a peaceful movement. It's absolutely a peaceful movement.
Probably the majority of them are peaceful.
Overwhelming majority are peaceful. And typically, and I'll take it a step further, you don't see violence. I've been out of some of these rallies and protests. You don't see violence or riots until actors of the state move in on them.
All right. Well, thank you so much,
Thank
Eugene,
you.
for joining me.
Anytime, anything for Julie.
All right, let's finish this. End.
Boom.